Now I'm going to change the subject a little bit and then bring it back, and that is, I discovered recently that among the things you've written that you haven't mentioned yet today is the oral history of Woodstock that you'd written back in '89 at its 20-year anniversary, and then reissued back in 2009 for its 40-year anniversary with a little bit of update and this sort of thing. Tell us what, if anything, for you is connected between the journey and the story of what happened at Woodstock and how people responded to that, and the journey and story of sustainability, the story you're telling now.
That's a good question. Well, first of all, most people don't know the story of Woodstock. I mean, they hear about this great rock concert that happened in upstate New York in August 1969, and that certainly is sort of the outcome, or they've seen the movie or whatever. But it's just a really interesting story of how these four 23 to 25-year-olds came together. Earlier that year, the idea was to, two of them were music industry guys, and two of them were kind of, yuppie, sort of budding venture capitalists. One of them had inherited some money, and the music guys wanted the money guys to help build a recording studio, and they ended up saying, well, let's do this event, and then it'll fund the recording studio, and then how they put together this hodgepodge quilt of handymen and hipsters and hangers-on and creative people and out of the Fillmore and all these music scene in New York and California, and created this event, and then they didn't move it at the 3 weeks or 5 weeks before they got thrown off the land, and then they had to find what turned out to be Yasgur's farm, this farmer Max Yasgur, and then they put this city together and didn't really finish it, and then the response was overwhelming, and hundreds of thousands of people came. They didn't have any fences. It turned into a free concert, and people were crowded in this hot, sticky August East Coast, weekend.
So the business model fell apart, right?
And then it rained. And rained, and you've seen that in the story, in the movies and things.
There was a climate change event.
There was an extreme weather event, and what should have been a disaster turned out to be anything but. And what there should have been just huge, there have been riots, sickness, death. They didn't have food, they didn't have sanitation, and the way those people came together to solve those problems under the most adverse conditions, with no precedent for this, in good spirit and good humor, is a really interesting story. And I haven't thought a lot about this, and certainly at the time I did the book in 1988, it came out in '89, I wasn't yet really on the green journey, but there is something about that, what happens when people come together to solve problems, and with good spirit and good intentions, and creativity, and even under the most dire conditions.
Right.